This time, I will call to order the Stillwater Utilities Authority meeting for October 16th, 2023. Trustees, action on the consent docket.
Motion to approve the consent docket.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve consent. Please vote. With a vote of 5-0, the consent docket is approved. On this agenda, we have presentation of Federal Advocacy Services and annual report by MMO Partners, and John McClenny will get this introduced for us.
Good evening, John McClenny, Procurement Manager. In October of 2022, the Council entered into an agreement with MMO Partners to provide federal advocacy services, primarily related to water infrastructure. And one of the deliverables on that contract is for them to provide you with an annual report. And Kyriakos Pagonis and Chuck Thomas with MMO Partners are here tonight to provide that report. Get this pulled up for you.
It'll pop up there in a second. Go ahead.
I guess it's Mr. Chairman, Mayor, council members, trustees. Thank you for the opportunity to be here before you tonight. My name is Kyriakos Pagonis. I'm Vice President at MMO Partners. I want to first, again, thank you for the opportunity to be here, but most importantly, thank you for giving us the opportunity to represent the city in Washington, D.C. I want to commend you all for having the vision and thoughtfulness of looking proactively at federal funding. We heard earlier tonight some of your infrastructure needs and have certainly been working with staff over the past year to try to align those needs with federal funding sources. So I just wanted to say a lot of commendation to you for really thinking ahead and proactively at looking at ways to leverage taxpayer money, ratepayer money to secure federal funding. So what I want to do tonight is give you a little bit of background about our firm and then go into some of the work that we've been doing on behalf of the city over the past year, and then talk about some of the work we'll be doing to finish out this year and then calendar year 2024. With me tonight is Chuck Thomas. Chuck is a senior technical advisor at MMO Partners, and he'll be walking through some of this presentation with me this evening. But a little bit of background about MMO Partners. We've been representing primarily local governments in Washington, D.C. for over 40 years. So if you're wondering, I've been with the firm for about 20 years. I started when I was about 10. But in all seriousness, our clients are local governments, cities, counties, water authorities, special purpose districts, ports. I'm happy to say and proud to say that our average client retention rate is about 25 years. Our initial 3 clients who started with the firm in the early 80s are still clients today. And I think part of the reason, for the success is our experience, but more importantly, I think it's our approach. We look at this work from a nonpartisan perspective, working with each of our clients to really develop and frame a federal program that aligns with their community's interests and the opportunities in Washington, and really approach this from a very technical and nonpartisan way. Obviously, we work in a political climate, so I'm not sort of naive to think that there is no politics involved, but from our standpoint, we work with members on both sides of the aisle to really deliver results on behalf of our clients. Closer. Sorry about that. Again, we look at ROI as sort of the way we look at our approach and making sure that the money you all invest, your taxpayers and ratepayers invest, is a return on investment for you all. And I'll ask Chuck to come up and do the program highlights for 2023.
Thank you, Kyriakos. Mr. Chairman, trustees, thanks for the opportunity to present. As Kyriakos mentioned, my name is Chuck Thomas. I'm a senior technical advisor with MMO. Prior to joining MMO, I worked for about 30 years at varying levels of public agencies, from state to local to municipality, generally with an engineering technical frame. I've worked with drinking water systems, wastewater systems, flood control, and kind of everything in between in that general realm. I am a registered professional engineer for about 27 years now, continuing to keep my registration up. So I'm helping provide some technical kind of insight into a lot of the projects as we move forward on this. Just to give an update on what we've done to date with Stillwater. So the first thing was hosting a federal workshop to identify project needs and scopes. Obviously, when we're coming in, we want to find out exactly what it is that you have going in and what your needs are, so that we can help frame which federal funding sources are a best fit for those projects. And that's not only from a technical perspective with regards to the federal funding source itself, but also the financial aspects of those programs and the match requirements, et cetera. So we try to match all of that up. We did produce a federal funding report, which identified roughly 8 opportunities broken up between several agencies, including FEMA, Federal Emergency Management Agency, Federal Highway Association, Environmental Protection Agency, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and U.S. Department of Ag with the NRCS program. And then down below that, of course, we have the Bureau of Reclamation in there as well. So through those programs, there are multiple funding opportunities. So with FEMA, you have the Building Resilient Infrastructure in Communities, which we'll talk about a little bit later, as well as the Flood Mitigation Flood Mitigation Authority. Through the Army Corps of Engineers, there's the Environmental Infrastructure Program. Bureau of Rec has small storage, water, energy, and efficiency grant programs. Of course, the Clean Water SRF and the Drinking Water SRF, you're fairly familiar with, already having used those. There's some new programs, the STORM, which is a revolving loan program for stormwater utilities and stormwater actions, and then WIFIA, which is the large federal loan program that's recently came about with EPA. And then, of course, there's member-directed spending requests through Washington, D.C. That we had introduced as well. So one of the first things that we wanted to do was develop the regional water brochure. So in our experience, when you're dealing with the congressional delegations or other entities, when you're introducing yourself to new federal agencies, it's important to be able to give them an ability to see a lot of information very quickly in a quick visual, so they have an understanding of exactly what it is that's going on. And we found that brochure concept to be very successful with other clients. And so we worked very closely with your staff to get that developed and put together for use as well. And I'd like to just kind of commend the staff for work on that and the rest of the program as well. They've been very responsive and have gotten us tons of information very quickly. So just want to drop some kudos for your staff on that perspective. Once we got those elements in place, then we started scheduling federal agencies and congressional meetings, both in person and virtual, depending on which was most accommodating. We did set up meetings with EPA, U.S. Department of Ag, Bureau of Reclamation, FEMA, Corps of Engineers, and of course members and staff with Senator Mullen, Senator Langford, and Congressman Lucas. So we're able to establish a presence with all those entities and with the members of Congress there. As part of funding opportunities, we did work with city staff to develop a technical assistance application for BRIC. So as a new program under the FEMA BRIC funding opportunity is a directed technical assistance program where FEMA will come in and provide up to 3 years of assistance, basically guiding a community through an application process for funding through the BRIC program. So it's a fairly competitive process, and it's exciting that Stillwater was one of 46 communities that was selected, the only local government in Oklahoma that was selected for this program. And so we've been moving forward with that. I think we've had 3 meetings now under that program. And of course, today was a great brainstorming session identifying all the needs and moving that forward. So that's very exciting from that perspective. We did submit, working with staff, a FY24 congressionally directed spending request. $1 million has been included in the House FY24 Interior Bill by Representative Lucas. And as that moves forward, obviously that hasn't been approved yet. We're still moving through that process. So those things do kind of work their way through. And most recently, within the past 2 weeks, there was a $30 million funding request submitted to Senator Mullins' office through the WRDA authorization request. And I'm trying to keep the acronyms to a minimum here, but it's the Water Resource Development Act, and that's the primary capital funding tool with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. The great thing about that funding, particularly the environmental infrastructure program, is that the funding has a very broad application, so it can go towards drinking water components, which is the primary focus here, but you can also look at wastewater as well as water resource and flood control, all under the same umbrella with the program. So it's a very flexible, kind of powerful program to work with from that perspective. So that's kind of where we are to date. And I think I will turn it back over to Kyriakis to discuss kind of what the next steps are moving forward for the upcoming year.
Thanks, Chuck. So that was a brief highlight overview of what we've been working on. Some of those successes, especially the BRIC TA selection, the $1 million congressionally directed spending, and then being able to submit the WRDA authorization, were really a team effort. So these are not MMO successes. This is the City of Stillwater's program, and it would not have happened without the direct involvement of the mayor and council's direction. The mayor took time and came to DC to advocate personally on these issues and projects. Your staff, and I'll say, we've work with cities large and small, and in some places there is no base of support, and we were fortunate to come here, and you all have a great staff already in place, and it really helped us hit the ground running. So I can't say, and Chuck said it earlier, how fortunate we are to have that partnership, and obviously your congressional delegation, for supporting these efforts. So going forward in 2023, we still have a few months left, but Chuck did mention the appropriations process. So as you all, I'm sure, are following the news, we're in a continuing resolution until mid-November. Hopefully Congress will be able to come to an agreement by then. My guess is not. And so I expect that we'll be here in December, hopefully, with a final product before Christmas. Fingers crossed, and hopefully that happens. So we won't know the outcome of your earmark until that process is wrapped up, but hopefully, again, before the end of the year. We'll continue to work with the city and FEMA on this BRIC technical assistance process. We had a meeting today. We're scheduled to meet every 2 weeks, and your staff, we've been part of these conversations and will continue to be. Again, the hope is at the end of this process, they will help us develop a proposal, a funding proposal that then is submitted to FEMA for national competition. And the BRIC program does allow for funding up to $50 million for infrastructure projects that do reduce communities' impact from disasters, and we're off to a good start. We did have Senator Mullins' staff, his state director, visit the site today. So we continue to move forward, and I think it's really important that you all, continue to be involved. Obviously, the staff and us can talk to folks, but we don't sit up there. You do. And I think having elected officials and federal decision makers hear directly from you all is critical to this process. And so I appreciate the time that you all have put forth so far, and hopefully we can continue to have those in-person conversations. Finalizing the FY24 I just mentioned, hopefully by the end of the year. We will then quickly move into FY25 and then work with your staff to develop a list of potential requests for the delegation to consider for FY25. That process is usually in the first quarter of 2024, with submissions probably due by the end of March or mid-April. Again, we've worked with your staff to develop the paperwork and support letters, et cetera, for that process to be complete. We'll continue to work with the delegation and the city and the Corps to get this WRDA authorization included in the next WRDA bill. And that process it started already because we have met a deadline. The House will also follow suit, and probably in the first quarter of 2024 will ask for the same type of request. We'll probably get a bill hopefully introduced in that first quarter, and then hopefully by the end of the year they pass something. The WRDA process is typically a bipartisan process, so it's usually not controversial. They have been able to do them every 2 years, and they have been pretty consistent, so hopefully that continues to work. I will say about the authorization process, it's a two-step process. So one is first getting the authority or giving the Corps the authority to work with you all. Once we get that authority, then we'll have to go back to Congress and ask for funding for projects that align with the authority. So just to be clear about that, this is not funding. It's an authorization to then get funding to do the work. We'll continue to work with your staff and you all on continuing to monitor grant opportunities. As we said, I think the city has done a great job and has certainly thought through in terms of having a grants office and probably can be bolstered. But I think we'll continue to work on finding opportunities throughout the year to match. Again, our mission has been really the drinking water project, but that doesn't mean we don't look for other things that we think are important to the city and align with projects that we learn about. Obviously, your economic development, there are certainly opportunities there, and so we'll just look forward to working with you all on finding those. And we'll take any questions.
Trustees, any questions?
You sat through a really long meeting today, but it was a good one for you all to attend. You probably learned a lot about us today. So thank you for your patience and, of course, for all the work that you're doing as we try to steward the funds that we have and bring more tax dollars back to benefit our community. It's really helpful to have your expertise to work with us to do that. We're really appreciative of all of those things.
Thank you.
I'll just comment that the work that you're doing is sort of what I alluded to a while ago, right? As we get more and more grants in here to fund some of these projects, we won't have to implement as much of the rate increase, perhaps.
Right.
Or maybe we'll leave it in place so we can accelerate things, but eventually that's going to start falling off on the backside. Mm-hmm. So this is critically important, and thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just add, I probably worked with you guys directly the most, and I've been very appreciative of the direction, right? I mean, I think with a lot of this stuff, we know about grants, we find these things or we see these things. Our staff does a fantastic job with pulling that stuff forward, but being able to go and have these conversations with our congressional delegation in a much more directed way. Hey, this is what this program is concerned about. This is what we need to focus on. Helping us put those materials together and really, it's an incredibly complicated system of the way federal money gets dispersed, and just you explaining the WRDA process where we've got to get the authorization to work with the Corps, and then maybe you go get money, and the BRIC process where we're getting the technical assistance, which then allows us to make the application for the grants. It's complicated, and it's as much as we wish it weren't, and as much as we wish this system worked a little bit more clearly, this is the reality of the situation, and you guys have been a great guide in helping us do that. And I think, as Councilor Clark said, it's vitally important for us to get these dollars back in our community, because we have a lot of money that needs to be spent, and I would rather that tax dollar I already gave the government comes back to me instead of having to give that tax dollar again in the form of a rate increase. And so again, just appreciate your work and look forward to turning some of this work into checks.
Yep.
So Appreciate you being here.
Thank you all. Appreciate the opportunity.
All right. Nothing further on the SUA agenda. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
With a motion and a second to adjourn SUA, please vote. With a vote of 5-0, the Story Utilities Authority is now adjourned.